TMZ has now received a new email, a fourth email from someone who claims he knows who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. And in this new communication, TMZ says that the sender again demands payment via Bitcoin for the information and warns ominously, quote, "I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border."
Everybody's asking the same question. Where is Nancy Guthrie? But I'm going to start with a different question. Why is the alleged kidnapper, or the person claiming to know the kidnapper, sending ransom notes to TMZ?
The media is the source of all riots because they create situations that impede investigations and make it difficult for law enforcement.
Even if we know that law enforcement is doing everything else right. But what if they're not?
All investigators, up to and including the FBI, have very little control over the media. And
well, really? Because we took Jimmy Kimmel off the air, so why can't we do this? Is nonsense.
The media will try to manipulate elections. If they want like one candidate more than another, they're going to put bad things out about a particular candidate. If they
we do the same thing too in law enforcement.
Some of the biggest liars in the planet are in the media, and they spread lies every day. So that one experience you had does not look at the macro picture of what you're dealing with them.
Hill of Justice is sponsored and produced by Jermaine Delmas Studios.
Everybody's asking the same question. Where is Nancy Guthrie? But I'm going to start with a different question, the one that should bother every investigator, detective, or even novice out there about this case. Why is the alleged kidnapper, or the person claiming to know the kidnapper, sending ransom notes to TMZ? If you don't understand anything, I want you to understand this. The hostage cases, in particular, communication is leverage. We all know this. But if the criminal chooses a tabloid as the delivery system, that isn't random. I'm telling you that this is particular strategy that they're using. And it creates chaos of all types. And chaos is a tool in this situation. So we're going to go ahead and break down what TMZ is actually doing with this, what it could mean legally, and what it means operationally for this case, and what it exposes, more importantly, about the investigation and the person who is delivering this stuff, particularly in public. So we have to go ahead and ask, here's the part that nobody is talking about and should be. The TMZ angle can hurt the case. Even if we know that law enforcement is doing everything else right. But what if they're not? I'm Jerome Hill, former law enforcement officer and state investigator. With me is retired Sheriff Victor Hill. And this is where we're at right now. We're in week 3 of this, brother. And we have nothing to go on. Naturally, just to give you some basis of what is going on right now, the reward actually went up to $200,000 at this point. And so an anonymous person claimed that they gave $100,000 to almost this Crime Stopper apparatus. So we're up at $200,000, and I believe it was an attorney up north that saw what was going on. We have the DNA updates from the glove, and there's no match to CODIS whatsoever. So we have that situation. And now everybody else is talking about the biological warfare that's going on and the genealogy that plays and takes a point into this. We have Mexico authorities now involved in this, and the FBI has reached out to those authorities and explained and debriefed them about the case. And naturally what we have is those cooperations being done, and that's a good thing, naturally. But we have the TMZ pipeline, and this continues to be what I believe to be a thorn in this case. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. How can TMZ, how are they leading this instead of narrative, instead of the FBI? That's what I'm ticked off about.
I've always said that the media is the source of all riots because they they create situations that impede investigations and make it difficult for law enforcement. We see in police shootings where they'll show just enough of it to incite a riot so they can go and film the riot. We've seen situations where people go to trial and they get tried by the media so the person can't get a fair trial. Ask me how I know. And they're trying to get ratings. They want sensationalism. Excuse me. They want law enforcement to tell them things that they can't tell them so they can put it out. And if they can't get told that stuff, they don't mind putting out any rumor or whatever they can get so they can get people watching their show and get their ratings up. And it's really a shame. All things are possible in an investigation. When things seem far out, you got to still look into it. But I seriously doubt if the kidnappers are contacting TMZ anyway. It's probably some lunatic or somebody who just wants to keep stuff
Yeah, we're
started.
going to talk about that, right?
Right. I really doubt that. It's possible, but just not probable.
Mm.
I don't think there's a group of kidnappers that think, well, let me send a ransom note to TMZ and then I'll be able to get the money that way. So I just doubt it seriously. And the media, you can't. Their trustability index is so low. You don't know if they're staging it so they could have something. I just don't have any confidence in them.
Right.
And as a person who's been a part of investigations and led a law enforcement agency, the best strategy we ever came up with is when we started communicating directly with the masses of citizens ourselves and cutting out the middleman. We didn't even hold press conferences or deal with them. We got the message directly to the citizens, put a mechanism so the citizens can communicate directly with us. And we were able to reach nearly 500,000 people, which is phenomenal when you look at the size of the county. So we really had no need for the media, and this is part of the reason why.
Yeah. I'm going to say this very carefully. We do not know if the person emailing TMZ is the kidnapper, an associate of some kind, a scammer, or what we call look at me opportunist, right? We got a bunch of them. It's a little bit what you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, but we can analyze the choice that they're using. And this is some of the red flags that we talk about. And this is why, in my experience, when a criminal takes the route of these demands through the media, it just usually points out to me several things. One of them is they're trying to control the narrative. They're creating pressure through public fear. And that's very real, and people need to understand that. The third thing that comes to mind is they're hiding and using distance from law enforcement through TMZ. And that's problematic. And then, of course, we got to test whether the authorities are listening. That's what they're doing. They're testing the authorities, how they're listening through that microphone, that megaphone, without exposing themselves directly. So what I mean by that is the criminal is not going ahead and giving the ransom note to law enforcement. They're using TMZ and using their megaphones to go all across the world with this. And this is where I get ticked off. TMZ reports and indicates that this ransom communication it keeps coming. And they have no problem. And they talk about the sophistication of it and so on and so forth. But they keep on reporting this. And my problem with the FBI is quit letting them run the narrative on this.
I don't
And
think
it should
the
be through the
FBI is
FBI.
letting them run a narrative. I think the FBI is probably just as pissed off as you are. All investigators up to and including the FBI have very little control over the media. And
Well,
it-
really? because we took
Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Kimmel off the air. So why
No,
can't
no,
we
no, no.
do this? Is nonsense.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about you're in the middle of an investigation. You're out looking for leads, and all of a sudden the media puts something out you know nothing about. That's comparing apples to oranges. That's not what I'm talking about here. All investigators, up to and including my time and 10 years in homicide, it was nothing for us to be working a homicide, and then all of a sudden something is put out that we don't know nothing about, that's inaccurate, or they could walk up to somebody on the street and get uh opinions, and unfortunately opinions can be misconstrued as facts, but most facts are people's opinions, and it's rare that 2 plus 2 is a fact, but just about everything else usually is people's opinions. So I don't think it's them letting them do that. I mean, they have no more control over the media going live and saying something than the media have over you and I going live and talking about what we want to talk about, whether they report it or not.
Okay.
Again, there's a phenomena that we've dealt with in this country for years, and that's the fact that the media will try to manipulate elections. If they want like one candidate more than another, they're going to put bad things out about a particular candidate. If they
We do the
want to
same thing too in
manipulate
law
a
enforcement.
trial, tell me what you mean by that.
Okay, so there's many times where I've worked with investigative reporters, and there's only a specific amount of things that I would say to them because I knew what would get out. Okay, and there's other things because we're working with them to say, hey, this can't go out just yet. You got that information, but we can't. We can control the narrative too.
But you can't control whether they'll listen to you or not. How many times have people told the media, don't put this out, and they put it out?
They
How
don't.
many
Yes,
times? How many times does the media say a unnamed source at the police department or the sheriff's office or at the FBI told us this or that? There
Right.
is no control in the media. If you think you can control what those people do, that you can't. I don't know where you're getting that from.
Well, I got it from because I've done it before.
You done
plenty
it
of
before.
times.
Maybe
And in fact,
you probably were lucky and had a reporter that actually honored what he said to you. Most of them don't. Some of the biggest liars in the planet are in the media, and they spread lies every day. So that one experience you had does not look at the macro picture of what you're dealing with them.
well, it was many experiences, and the fact of the matter
Many
is,
with
it
the
comes
same
down to
reporter or
relationship.
different
No.
reporters?
This was local and national. So
You too
these things happen.
streetwise to believe that you can build a relationship with the media. You too street. That's like believing that you can negotiate with
I'm-
terrorists.
Look, I'm not saying that there isn't an element of that going on, but I can also tell you and assure you, if the story is big enough, like this is, okay, there are certain ways that you can go about doing that. And plus, that trust starts long ago. It doesn't just
there
start
is
with this
not
type of case.
certain ways you can do that. Listen, I've seen people try it all. I know a guy that used to work at a nearby sheriff's office, and he used to have media day, and he would invite them and feed them and basically kiss the donkey, and they still came back and put out crazy stories about that sheriff's office, some that weren't inaccurate. That's no different than home invasion robbers coming in your house and you say, here's a combination to the safe, here's my wife's jewelry, don't hurt us, and they execute both of y'all anyway.
Right.
A
Well, you're-
streetwise
yeah,
cop
but
like
that's-
you, there's no way you can believe that, no, if you build a right relationship with the media, they're going to take care of you. There's no way. You've been on those streets of Baltimore too long. You saw
Well,
what they
you
did.
say there's
You
no
saw-
way,
and
but it
look what they
happened.
did. Look what they did with you.
Yeah, well, it did happen on that, but I wasn't having a relationship about my own story. This is about something altogether
But
different.
at the same time, they still put out lies about you. They've done it about me.
That's
And-
what they
and- and-
sensationalize, sure.
They sensationalize. So for you to say that the FBI should be able to control them, no one can control them. And then when you chase a lie, it runs even further.
Okay.
And
Now-
they're usually the author of most of the lies that we see. It's just a fact. It's very rare. I'm not saying that there are no credible media sources. There's some, but they're rare. And you got to check everything they say.
Okay. So now we're talking about negotiation contamination at this point. That's my on it. You were a hostage negotiator.
I was.
So we
Hell, I
need to talk
still
about
am.
that.
I'm
You
trying to
know?
talk you. I'm trying to talk you down now. But go ahead.
Okay. It,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
as we, I'm in your hometown. You do
I
know
know
that,
you
right?
are. I know
Okay.
you are.
All right. I can
Welcome
come
to
see you.
Atlanta, by the way,
Yeah.
where the
Thank you.
players play.
Right. So in these hostage cases, you want one voice. You agree with me on that, right?
I agree. One
Okay.
voice.
Multiple voices, creates all these openings. And I think it creates these openings for manipulation. And I want you to
Which
talk
is
a little
why
bit
the
about
media
that.
shouldn't be involved. But keep
I'm
going.
with you on that, right?
Right.
Right. But if there is, you can put out tests, and we've done. We're going to leave that to another show because I think that's fascinating altogether. So I'm worried about, of course, these copycat amplifications. These, them publicizing on TMZ. It's almost like inviting a mailbox for everybody who wants to be famous or want to get some type of notoriety. It just invites these scammers, and it could do more harm to a case. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the most fascinating documentaries I've ever seen, and I've actually lived it, is Trial by Media. And basically, when they find a case, they sensationalize it. They put out things that could either hurt the defense or hurt the prosecution, depending on how they want the trial to go. It's just they shouldn't be involved. I think the greatest thing that happened under my administration is when we decided to use the power of social media, get direct access to people in Clayton County through their phones, and send them direct information in real time. We didn't have to wait till the 6 o'clock news came on. That hopefully that they'll put the right information out in the right picture. We could text people, here's a picture, a composite drawing. Here's what we got. Here's what we're looking for. Avoid this area. And we were able to get that information directly to the citizens. Public information officer, a lot of people, I remember the media, some person in the media here, we got a lot of dummies here in the media, Mark Wee, Uncle Tom Jones. One of them was like, hey, he has a PIO officer. Why aren't they communicating with us? PIO, let's see what it means. Public information officer, not media information officer. My PIO's job was to get information to the public. We could give a damn less if it got to the media because they were going to distort it anyway. The media is kind of like that classroom game in the 5th grade where you whisper in one child's ear, and by the time it gets out, it's a different story.
Sure.
When we were able to do that, we were able to get direct communication to the citizens, and they were able to help feed us information, which is why we were catching so many murderers, so many fugitives and stuff like that. Anytime they get involved, it's going to get messed up. And unfortunately, the only control that law enforcement has now is now with the technology. Law enforcement needs to be the media, not beg the media, ask the media, hope the media. Forget them and let the public know, hey, listen, we can communicate directly with you. Unless you hear it from us, discount it, because 9 times out of 10 is not accurate. And what ended up happening is the media ended up subscribing to our text message because we wasn't wasting time with press conferences and stuff like that. We were getting real information in real time out to the public, and they benefited from it. They protected themselves, and they gave us information, and we cut out the middleman. When you got the middleman, there's no telling what bone he's going to bring you. He's probably chewed the bone up before you got it.
The other side issue with this is that TMZ being used as this megaphone, if you will. You are giving all the criminal tradecraft to these individuals. And what I mean by that is, you don't think that future abductions, kidnappings, murders, they won't follow this to go ahead and sharpen up their blades on how to go ahead and handle this the next time? In addition to that, talking about TMZ's business model is all about speed, right? Our business model is about precision. They conflict. And this is the issue that I have fundamentally with TMZ. And we need to do something about that, because it's causing a mess, and it will cause a mess. If not right now, which I believe it is, it's going to cause a mess if this goes to court.
I think what the only thing that law enforcement can do is become the media. Each law enforcement have to have their own channel that you can tune into. They have to have a channel that they can put out to the public anytime they need to or want to. Not wait, well, the news comes on at 6 or it comes on at 7, so we got to wait. They can immediately, if they can do a press conference if they want, and they don't have a bunch of dummies out there asking questions that don't make any sense, is not germane to what they're trying to do. And then they can put out the information they need to put out. They can stress, unless you're getting the information from us, it's questionable, because TMZ, CNN, all these other folks are not going to have the direct information that we have. Then let the media go to that source, and they can take excerpts from that and try and do whatever they want. But when you have to wait on them, when you have to go to the press conference, and then they're only going to play certain clips of it, of things that and make it look, because you can isolate a clip and make it sound as if though someone is saying something they're not saying. The law enforcement is going to have to become the media. And at the end of the day, that's true transparency. People will say, well, you're not being transparent because you're not talking to the media. How is not talking to folks who lie and manipulate what you say not being transparent? They're not being transparent. What you do is you connect and find a way with social media, and there's so much out there now, from text message systems to whatever. Communicate directly with them, get them the information in real time. That's the highest level of transparency without manipulation.
Okay, so we're taking a look at these high-profile cases in particular. And what I'm particularly concerned about is these criminals, offenders, whatever you want to call them. You know, they want to seed chaos. They want you. And so
so does the media. So they contacted the right people.
So taking the media out of it, they can also use the media, and the media filters right into it. And so, for example, what I'm talking about is, if you got, by last account, there was something like 18,000 tips that came in for the FBI to go ahead and try to figure out or sift through. Well, guess what? You could look at 17,999 of them being noise, being particular. I'm just putting a number out. I'm not saying that's certain, but that's what type of chaos you can bring when you have an outlet like that keeps on reporting what they keep on getting in, and then want to leave things up to conjecture, or even at some point in time they go about saying, hey, guess what, we want to be careful what we say, because we're not comfortable with, and I've heard this a lot of times from Harvey, we're not comfortable about putting this out. MFR, you shouldn't be saying it in the first place. What are you talking about? Stay in your lane. Get out of that. You're not in law enforcement. So we got this problem with people putting in what they want to for the FBI to muck this whole thing up. And we're seeing this all in real time.
Right. And what the FBI has to do is let them know, unless you get it from us, don't consider credible. TMZ is a tabloid. So since when do we depend on accurate information from a tabloid? And I think this is a perfect time for the FBI and all law enforcement agencies to use the model we used at the Clayton County Sheriff's Office when I was there, and just X out the media altogether and find a way to communicate directly with the public, so you're hearing directly from us. And we don't mind putting something out every day if we have to. Okay, no leads today or whatever, but they need to hear it directly from them. Even when you get up in front of them and do a press conference, there's a big risk, because they manipulate those. They'll give an hour press conference and play 2 minutes, and it's very misleading unless a person is willing to watch the whole hour of it. So you've got to be the media, not ask the media, kiss the media, or whatever like that. Be the media and get your message directly out. Or if so, we're seeing something we've never seen before, a tabloid getting in the middle of a major investigation. And that's sad, because his family is suffering. I'm not going to concede that this lady is dead until there's proof of death I do agree with you. As each day goes by, there's a high probability that that's the case. But this is a huge distraction. If she still is alive, which we all hope and pray she is, this is a huge distraction from the people who are trying to get her back to her family safely. And this is just another example of the media and why they're so famously referred to in some circles as being fake.
Yeah, and I think it draws into exactly a little bit what you're saying, what I'm about to say next, is that, you have people who have all types of, medical issues. And if they don't like a particular, they don't like a particular message that the doctor has told them, they'll go to another doctor and get a second opinion. That seems well to do that. But if they don't like that and it's the same message, then they want to go to another doctor and then another doctor. So we got doctor shopping going on. Well, criminals are the same way. They are going to go ahead and shop these type of messages so they can get their own particular narrative out. But now
go ahead.
But now they got a media.
I doubt if it's them. Yeah, I doubt if it's them. And I'm not saying I haven't seen it. Right. I'm not saying I've never seen the media, a criminal contact the media. I mean, we had a situation in Metro Atlanta where a guy was holding hostages in a bank, and he called the reporter. But he was really trying to negotiate a way out and get what it is he really wanted. He didn't call TMZ. Right. And I'm not saying we haven't seen this, but not like this. A tabloid, a national tabloid, and we're sending ransom. It's probable, but it's not likely. I mean, it's possible, but it's not probable. That these are the actual kidnappers anyway. All we got is a huge distraction.
And more to my point, and this is why the family gets pulled into this public bargaining, if you will, from it. And that's what teased me off about it. And you got investigators, you got all types of deputies and the sheriff in particular that are losing control of proof of life standards. Because that's what we want to find, is if she is alive. The likelihood at this point, I'm not happy about. And I keep on expressing that. But at the same time, we got it, and more to your point, we got to control the narrative. And we're losing that battle.
Yeah. Well, again, we got to adopt a new model. I mean, again, when it comes to cases and trials, the media has proven time and time again to be horrible. Not to be self-serving, but guess what? I'm going to be self-serving for a second. A good example is my case. The media would play two officers walking into a room and tasing a guy in a restraint chair. First of all, we don't know who these two guys are. It's not my jail. It's not our case. No one was ever tased. But they would play that over and over again in my case. So think about it. When I go to trial and everybody's mind, oh my goodness, people in a restraint chair being tased. There's no other word for something about that but deliberate propaganda, deliberate lies. And if they did that in my situation, we know they're doing it all over. And again, that's why they're referred to famously in a lot of circles, and they're accurate with it as the fake media. And when they get involved in it, people can lose not just trials, they can lose their lives. Look at all the riots they've started by putting out certain narratives and getting people emotional, and people have gotten killed and hurt. It's a situation that needs to be dealt with. And the best way we found to deal with it is to get direct communication. The greatest thing about social media, and the media hates it, is they hate like what we got going on now, a podcast. A friend of mine overheard a reporter saying that they hope there's a way to stop this because people shouldn't be able to do in their living room what I went to school for, to become a journalist. No, it's the greatest thing that ever happened, because basically you went to school to get a license to lie, and people want the truth.
Right, they do. And this is where, talking a little bit about trials and so on and so forth, in this case, and if this case ends in prosecution, let's just say that. Let's just say this case ends in prosecution. Every inconsistency in what people have said publicly, now it becomes cross-examination material. It then turns into some type of reasonable doubt wedge and, a rush to judgment argument. How do we know this? Look at the case of Casey Anthony. She is walking in the state of Florida right now when we all can put all the facts together to say that she was responsible for her daughter's death. This is the problem that exists.
Again, the media has been used, or they use their power of the mic, so to speak, to manipulate elections, trials, everything.
Right.
And the biggest thing that we can do is educate people that when you listen to them, as we used to say in investigations, trust but verify. I don't even trust. I untrust and then verify with them.
Yeah, you do. You do more than that than anybody else.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I come from the other side of the coin when it comes to that, But it bears the reason that sophisticated offenders, they bank on the system making mistakes, and so they can get off later. You saw this in the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, we've seen this in huge trials, where there was more than a reasonable doubt that somebody had done something. So this is where we're at, and we just got to control the narrative and the communication, because right now we have a woman's life that's potentially in danger.
Endangered. Exactly.
And
exactly.
The likelihood, I will say it again, the likelihood of her being with us today is 1%, but I want to be wrong, and I hope that I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too.
For her family's sake and so on and so forth. It's just that, we're creating chaos, and these individuals right now.
No, we're not creating chaos.
Right.
They're creating.
Right. They're creating chaos.
Right now is creating chaos.
And,
right.
We know that the offender is watching. And what they did and learned, and when what they're seeing on TMZ, is rewarding that type of attention. And that's what pisses me off about
Let me tell you, there was a bank robber. He was a serial bank robber we used to have. And ironically, I caught him, but I can't tell you it was great detective work. I just happened to be in the parking lot when he was robbing a bank. But what this guy would do is he would call in a bomb threat at a grocery store or some public place and get everybody going down there. Then he would go rob the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think about that when I think of this, because we got everybody worrying about TMZ, and we need to be concentrating on getting this woman home safe if she's still alive.
Yeah. What we're going to do is wrap this up, and here's the final thought. I'm not going to wrap this up neatly because it doesn't need to be wrapped up neatly, because the case isn't neat at all, So whoever this person is, and they're writing these messages to TMZ, and they're writing it for a reason. And I don't care what anyone says. This is a choice. This is a clue. And we need to go ahead and stop that nonsense as fast as possible. Brother, this was a good one. I'm in your town, so, I'll see you.
Matter of fact, I'm on the way to come pick you up.
Okay. I got a nice little speech at Morehouse College. So
yeah,
let's go ahead.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's get together. Once again, many of you are watching. You are, our channel is growing by leaps and bounds, and we appreciate that. Please hit the notification button, and we appreciate all the new subscribers now watching and listening to the show on all of our platforms. Until next time, brother, I'll see you later.
All right.